Self-driving cars, flying cars, all the transportation options of the future are finally becoming a reality. And here's another futuristic way to get from point A to point B, and it'll definitely give you a scenic view. They're flying water taxis called sea bubbles, and the all-electric crafts are currently being tested on the River Seine in Paris. Inside the flying taxi, you've got 4 seats that face each other with a spot for the pilot up front. Instead of floating, stilts drag through the water, and it uses similar tech that allows planes to fly, so they're not exactly boats. The sea bubbles just got the green light to start another round of testing. Now, members of the public can actually hop on board. If all goes well with the latest rounds of tests, you could catch a ride in a sea bubble to check out the Eiffel Tower and other sites around Paris as early as next year. Hopefully, you're not in a hurry. They only hit about 16 miles per hour. And I'm not sure if this is really going to take off. 3D printing has come a long way from where it was just a few years back, where it was used primarily just to create things like tiny trinkets out of resin. It's also moved beyond the basics like phone cases and machine parts, making its way into healthcare, where it's being tested for everything from pills to actual organ replacements. But now 3D printing is taking new shapes. There's a construction company called Icon, and they make 3D printed homes. After showing off their prototype last year, they took the technology to Latin America, where they're building the world's first 3D printed neighborhood. These are designed for poor families. Now they're working on another development in Austin, Texas, to help provide housing for the homeless there. And the thing is, these homes are fast and cheap to build. That prototype I mentioned, it took 48 hours to create and only cost 10 grand. Definitely a more noble cause than your typical 3D printed chip clips, right? Okay, here's an age-old predicament. You work a long day, finally get home, and now you're supposed to make dinner too. In the kitchen of the future, we could have the Molly kitchen robot. And sure, it looks a little unsettling to see 2 robotic arms mounted over your counter that slide on tracks. But it's also not exactly the scary iRobot scenario yet. Here's how this came about. The company behind it, UK-based Molly Robotics, brought in a master chef and spent a lot of time recording him as he whipped up various recipes. So they used that to build a library of meals you can choose from just by tapping the screen. Best part is, this kitchen robot can learn your favorite recipes too. And after it finishes cooking, it cleans the kitchen. Sounds great, right? Well, here's the thing. This kitchen robot has been in development for about 5 years, and they're slated to ship it in about 6 months. But if you want your own robot, it's going to set you back 75 grand. Holy moly. For that kind of money, you might just consider hiring your own butler. Now for something a little bit on the strange side of future tech. Maybe you've heard stories about the early days of Silicon Valley, how hallucinogenic drugs like LSD and their psychedelic effects were popular sources of inspiration. Even Apple's late founder, Steve Jobs, said LSD was a profound experience, one of the most important things he ever did in his life. That was then, but even now, stories run rampant of Silicon Valley entrepreneurs counting on things like LSD and magical mushrooms to help them come up with the next big thing. So a question, can virtual reality scenes and glasses give the same effects as LSD and other similar drugs? Artists and filmmakers are trying to replicate psychedelic experiences through VR headsets. Some of these so-called cyberdelic practitioners use tech to create these, well, trippy experiences as ways to replace the drugs. I told you it was out there. With VR, you can create anything. Just don't get LSD confused with LDS. Instead of going on a trip, you'll end up going on a mission. Hey, thanks for watching. Now, a few things. Don't forget to click the like button and also subscribe to our YouTube channel. And for more digital know-how, check out all these other great links.